This picture is my most prized possession. After 76 years, I finally got a picture of my mother, Olga Francis, from Lani, and that's my father and her on their wedding day. She sure is a beautiful lady. Wish I had known her. And he wasn't such a bad guy either. That's Jack Edward. Sure he looks different when he was younger. This is my dad in his younger days again. The picture of my dad and his deer that he shot up in back of the old homestead in Wisco, Wisconsin. On the right is my grandmother, Eliza, her sister Minnie in the center, and her brother Walter Foss on the left. This is my grandfather, Charles Edward Collier. Son's name is named after me and him both, Charles Edward. And this is my grandfather again. That's me and my dad and Earl. And Lani had one blowed up with this one and sent to me just recently, so I'll put that one on next. This is the one that Lani sent to me. Thanks a lot, Lani. We love you. Of course, that's me. And there's Pop. And there's Earl. My dad and I, when I was in the service, I just came down from Newfoundland, stopped over in Eau Claire. Earl and I horseback riding when he was living at PL down here in Washington. My dad, I, Dorothy, and our little baby girl, Marcia. That's me packing Dad's 22. That was a pretty good shot, too. That's my dad and my aunt Myrtle. Last name was Howell. Married to Malcolm. Stepmother, my sister Mary, and Billy, the bulldog. That's my sister Jessie. I sure like her. I think she looks a lot like my mother. This is my sister Mary again. Don't know what happened to her. Last I heard she was lost in a flood in Oregon many years ago. That's me in the front with Earl behind me and Mickey in that old car. I don't know what it is, when they were visiting back in Wisconsin. This is my brother Arvid and his wife Mary. They sure were nice people. Arvid and I at his home in Wisconsin, Ashland, Wisconsin, taken in 1976 when I went back there for a family reunion. My sister Iola on the right, and her daughter Ruth. Ruth was a real nice girl. Iola and my wife Dorothy, taken in 1976 at their home in Two Rivers, Wisconsin, just out of Manitowoc. That's Arvid's wife, Mary, and their three daughters. Diane on the left, Anna in the center, and Carla. My sister Jessie's three daughters, Judy in the center, Jean on the left, and Joan, a redhead, on the right. This was taken at Cozy Corners at our family reunion in 1976. It's me, Jessie, Iola, and Arvid. This is of the whole group. It's me, Dorothy, John Demboski, Jessie's husband, Mickey, Iola, Vern Wickman, her husband, Arvid, and Mary. That's Vern, Iola's husband, taken with a musky lunge caught out of Lake Michigan. That's my 8th grade school picture taken at Ashford here in Washington. I was just a little squirt. All the girls are bigger than I am. Dorothy, Marcia, and I, in 1945, before I shipped out again. Jimmy was still in the oven, so to speak. That's Dorothy. I think that was her graduation picture. And there's Dorothy again, not too many years ago. And this is Dorothy's mother, Martha. And this is our children, Marcia and Jimmy. This is Jimmy in his graduation picture. See the dimples? Jimmy when he was in the Navy. Marcia's graduation picture. Dorothy and Marcia. When she was a baby, she sure didn't have much hair. That's Dorothy when she was about 14, I suppose. That's before I knew her. Dorothy in 1945, wearing my sailor pants. This is Dorothy's father. The other two ladies, I don't know. Dorothy in 1969, her hair had just turned white. And that turned white practically overnight when Marcia was killed. Best picture she ever took. And Dorothy again. I think that was her graduation picture. Ship fitter, third class. Finally made first. This is our 50th wedding anniversary picture. Clipping out of the newspaper. Marcia and Jimmy on the front porch at Midland at Christmas time. I just got to giving them heck and they're both about ready to bawl. Dorothy in front of the rose bush where we lived up in South Hawthorne, the north end of Tacoma. That's me, same place, 1011 South Hawthorne. That was a home we had before I retired and I sold it. Marcia and Jimmy again. Dorothy's mother when she was a lot younger. And there's Jimmy. And, of course, Marcia. And Jimmy again. And there's Jimmy with a mean look on his face, like, you want to make something out of it? It's Jim's children, our grandchildren, Laura Lee and Charles Edward II. Laura and Charlie again. Charlie's in the Navy. Laura's in Florida. She's working, not married. Laura's graduation picture. Laura again when she was a little tyke. And Laura again. She's sure a nice girl. This is my grandson Charlie in his Navy uniform. Mother says he looks like he's scared. And this is Joshua. That's Lisa's boy. That's Jim's third wife, Lisa. That's Josh when he was younger. He's about 6'2" now. Weighs a little over 200 pounds. And he's just now graduating out of the 8th grade. Or 9th grade, I don't know which. This is Charlie's graduation picture. Charlie again, pretty good looking boy. Laura when she was a little tyke. And Laura again. And Laura again. Of course I gotta stick my puss in there once in a while. Grandma Dawson and Minnie Chesley, she's passed away with her Eagles pins on. Jimmy with his tongue sticking out, and Earl Doolittle, that's Dorothy's brother's boy. Marcia in her army uniform, standing in front of that little Nash Metropolitan that I bought for her. Marcia's husband, Cheryl. No idea where he's at now, or any of the 3 grandchildren. Marcia riding her tricycle. One of Marcia's school pictures. Another school picture. Jimmy's school picture. Charlie looks like him. Another school picture. This me in 1941 or 42, early 42. Marcia wasn't born yet. They'd taken an apartment house in Tacoma. Our 3 grandchildren, that's Marcia's children, Eddie, Laura, Lee, and Danny. That's Eddie riding his brother Danny on the back of a bicycle. It's in Flippin, Arkansas, and we went back there to visit, and I bought them that bicycle. He learned to ride it in one day and had his brother on it. Danny on a horse. The horses were real too. Eddie on same horse. That's our grandson Eddie. Just before Marcia passed away. Jim in his Navy uniform. Jim and his first wife. No children. Weren't married too long. Jim and Barbara at their wedding. That's his second wife. Third one I don't have a picture of. That's Barbara. She was one heck of a nice girl. I liked her. Marcia and her three children. Danny, Laura Lee, Eddie, and Jim. Jim was up visiting when she was in on the base up there where Cheryl was stationed. Cheryl, Marcia, and their first baby. Marcia's boy Eddie having lunch. I don't know what's so funny. He's getting a kick out of something. That's Dorothy and Danny when she went back to visit them. Ten 11 South 4th in front of the rose bushes. This may be a retake because I stopped for a coffee break. That's Mother, or Dorothy, and her K-90's gown she made for an Eagles Lodge doings. Here she is again in her full-length formal in a backyard of 1011 South Hawthorne. That's me, same place, with my captain's hat that I wore when I went out in the ocean fishing with my own boat. This is Jim and I taking an orange Buick in Orlando, Florida, where Jim was a mechanic. Dorothy and Jim in front of a 1906 Buick at Orlando Buick in Orlando. Dorothy feeding deer at a park near Long Beach, California. She is feeding a porpoise at SeaWorld near Long Beach. Dorothy and my little 65 MGB that I restored. My son gave it to me. I gave him a Datsun pickup that was wore out, and a friend of his wanted a Datsun pickup to restore, so we traded, and then Jim gave me this one. Me and the MGB Sure a good little car. Still got it. It runs like a top and it runs circles around the newer ones. I tow it behind the motorhome when we go down the ocean. Me and my Harley 45 still got the cap. I sold that in 1960 when Jim was about 16. He wanted to ride it, and I wouldn't let him because he'd kill himself on the darn thing. So I sold it. It would do 120 miles an hour. He and I had a lot of fun on it. It held the road pretty good when you had more weight on it. That was my little dog, or our little dog, Peanuts, with the big ears. We had quite some years ago. He was sure a good little dog. That's little Cindy, and the white one's Fifi. And Fifi lived to be 16 years old before we had to put her to sleep on account of cancer and loss of eyesight, hearing. She was just like one of the family. Fifi again at Christmas time, posing in front of the Christmas cards. She loved to pose. Jim and I, when he was about 16, going swimming at Surprise Lake. This was taken in California in one of the drive-through redwood trees in 1954. That's my old shack, tar paper shack I bought in 1945 when I got out of the service. We just got the plumbing in. The washing was done on the back there. The bicycle was my mode of transportation, and the toilet was a two-holer out in the backyard. $1,000 for that old shack and a half acre, and by 1958 I built on 2 bedrooms, kitchen, front porch, back room for Jim. Got it all finished. Sold it in 1969 for $9,500. 2 years later it sold for $75,000. This was our second home. When I sold the one in Midland, I bought this one for $14,500 in the north end of Tacoma. Then I sold it just before I retired because it was too much to take care of and travel. Bought this mobile home in Majestic Mobile Manor Park on a river road in Puyallup for $8,500. Sold it again a few years later for $14,500. We could lock the door, give the neighbor the key, and take off for the winter. Same place was the front porch that I had in front. I had a hanging basket that was made out of rake tines that I picked up in Wisconsin in '76 when we went back there for a visit. This is a boat that I built. Sure a good little boat. It would do 43 miles an hour. Pretty fast. Bought this one, and I used it for fishing in the ocean, commercial fishing with 4 salmon poles. Had a lot of fun with that one. I sold it too. In our Fairlane 500 with a boat on top, getting ready to go fishing. Fairlane 500 was a good Ford. Since then, I don't think they made too many good Fords, as far as I'm concerned. Got a Buick now. On the hood of my old '64 Datsun pickup that I finally wore out and gave it to Jim. In the head of a 4-pointer. A hunting buddy of mine and his 3-pointer. Him and I with each a deer. That's the day that he got his first deer. Gutted it out and hid it up in the woods, went to get the car, come back, and somebody stole the darn thing. So he had to go out and shoot another one. We're in Midland, Pete Hartman We went hunting together, and that was one of his deer. One more deer that I got. I don't go hunting anymore. I gave it up. Don't eat them. Give them away anyway. And I don't like to shoot them. So I shoot them with a camera. Hunting high up in Canada with a mess of Canadian trout. Them dudes run 2-3 pounds, sometimes up to 5 pounds. And of course my jug of whiskey on my side, and Dorothy's got the vodka. We don't drink anymore. Grandma up, and that's her mess of fish she caught. But no jug. Me and a 56-pound king salmon caught at La Push. Them fish, we don't eat them. I eat them smoked, that's the only way. I gave the whole thing away. That was the largest fish ever taken out of that area. It's a smoker, portable smoker I made when we went fishing in Canada. I smoked the fish up and come home with about 2 apple boxes full. Mesa lake trout, where we lived up at the lake above Yelm, and my little dog Buddy, he's a good little boy. Marcia, Jim, and Dorothy, when we went stream fishing up at Lynch Creek above Eatonville. And her husband, Cheryl. Cheryl and Marcia's 3 children. That's Eddie, Leah, and Danny. Have no idea where they are. Sure wish I could find them. Especially Leah. I was in the Army 1940 to 41 at Fort Worden, Coast Artillery. Got out of that and joined the Navy. I didn't want any more Army. They call it the Infantillery. Dorothy's brother, Frank Heater, he was killed in 1941 when the Japanese invaded the Philippines. I made this out of 50 caliber shells and some brass and brass welding rod when I was up in Newfoundland, and had my picture taken with the only beard I ever grew. Couldn't raise a mustache. Mama won't let me have a beard. Besides, it'd be all white now if I did. Sister Iola and Vern Wickman and their family. Ruth on the right, and her daughter Renee and her son Bobby. And in closing the video, one last look at my mother and my dad. Thanks a million for that picture. We love you. Our daughter Marcia made us this picture. Watch how it changes from Mary to Jesus Christ. And love, Chuck and Dot. We hope you've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. And thanks again for everything. We love you. Bye-bye.